What is up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 10 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show podcast. It's Jared and Ian back again this week, ready to talk a little Ohio sports with you guys. This week we are joined by Mr. Alex Sakaris. He is coming back on the show after a great show last week, so ready to talk some Ohio sports with you guys. Let's get into it. This is a special episode of the Ohio Sports Radio Show podcast. Now, typically we release our show earlier in the week, but due to scheduling conflicts, it had to come later in the week. So we're recording this late on a Friday evening. We got Memorial Day weekend right around the corner here, ready to grill all day tomorrow, ready to eat way more than I should, and just enjoy the weekend with the family. So hopefully you all out there are listening to this podcast, enjoying the nice weather, cooking some grilled meats, and just enjoying a few beers, sitting back, and hopefully having a good time with your family. And really honoring what Memorial Day is all about and all of the fallen heroes who fought for this country and given us this freedom. So thank you to all of them from all of us at Ohio Sports Radio. If you listen to the show, go out, thank a veteran today. We have our very own veteran on the show, Mr. Alex Sakaris. So Alex, thank you to you, sir. We do appreciate that. But let's go ahead. Let's get into it. Let's talk some Ohio sports with you guys. We usually start the show off with our best and worst of this past weekend. So Alex, give me your best and worst, brother.
My best, Manchester United this past week. I know you hate Manchester United. You're a City fan, but they won their 12th record-tying FA Cup title. Just for you, Jared. My worst, Columbus Crew tied Toronto last week, 0-0 or 0-0. They had a pretty dominant game and still finished with the draw, and they just need to pull away with 3 points. 1 point at a time is good, but they're too far behind. They need the 3.
Yeah, they're struggling right now, and fuck United just off the start. You're already going to make me cuss just that early. Ian, what's your best and worst, brother?
My best and worst coming both from tonight, Friday evening. The best, the Cleveland Cavaliers just advancing the last hour to the NBA championship after a Game 6 win in Toronto, 113-87. The Cavaliers await the winner of the Oklahoma City versus Golden State series. My worst of the week, the Reds dropping their 11th straight tonight to the ever-so-dreadful Milwaukee Brewers.
They are unbelievably awful. So bad. My best of the week, like I've said, since it started, the NHL playoffs been phenomenal. As you guys know, I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. My Pens advanced to the Stanley Cup Finals. Super excited about that. They're going to face the San Jose Sharks. Should be a good final. A lot of fast hockey. If you haven't been watching the NHL playoffs, now is the perfect time to do so. It should be a very, very good Cup final, and I'm very excited for that. My worst of the weekend was Exaggerator winning the Preakness. I know in my bold prediction last week, I said Nyquist would win. I was hoping he would because it just makes the Belmont race so much better when you have a horse who's won the first 2 of the Triple Crown heading into the Belmont. Now you got the people who are the casual fans of horse racing. They're probably not even going to watch it. Nyquist isn't even going to run the Belmont, so it looks like Exaggerator could be the favorite. Just a terrible race in general ran by Nyquist's jockey. He took off and got the early start, and that's just not how that horse likes to run. So pretty terrible. I got another worst of the week, Mr. Phil Kessel of my Pittsburgh Penguins being left off of the USA roster for the World Cup of Hockey. Terrible decision, in my opinion. USA is going to need all the scores that they can get if they want to beat Team Canada in the World Cup, and Phil Kessel is exactly that. He's a great scorer, so I think that's a bad decision, and I'd like to see him make Team USA, but it is what it is. It's not my call. That's our best and worst of this past weekend. Let's move on. Now, we do a segment called Top 5, and Top 5 coincides with something that's going on in pop culture right now. For those of you who may have missed it, Mr. Dustin Diamond, a.k.a. Screech Powers, a.k.a. Screech Powers from Saved by the Bell, was arrested for violating his parole. Doing so, it ruined another classic memory of our childhood. So we thought we would do our top 5 favorite TV shows growing up. Alex, let's hear number 5 for you.
Number 5, Home Improvement. Tim the Toolman Taylor. I love get out of that show. Yeah, thank you. I cannot do that. I was debating on trying to attempt it, but thank you for that.
Yep, thought you liked that. Ian?
Number 5 for me, I'm going old school Saturday morning on NBC, Hang Time. It was about a high school basketball team. Their head coaches were Reggie Theus and Dick Butkus. Jared, just by looking at your face, I can tell that you watched this show. I love me some Hang Time.
That was a great show. I forgot about this show until now. That was a fantastic show. Number 5 for me, old school Nickelodeon. A lot of mine will be old school Nickelodeon or Disney Channel. Salute Your Shorts, number 5 for me. Fantastic show about a bunch of kids went to a summer camp and they just pulled all kinds of hijinks. It was just great. So many great characters on the show. So Salute Your Shorts is number 5 for me on my list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up. Alex, let's hear number 4.
Number 4, Growing Pains. I loved Kirk Cameron and his character. I don't know, it was just a funny show for me to watch with the family moments of learning at the end.
Yeah, and Leo DiCaprio got his first. That was his first start on that show. He was like
towards the end of the series.
Small character. Ian, number 4 for you on this list.
Number 4 for me, I'm going Disney Channel, going with Even Stevens. Shia LaBeouf's debut, his beginning, and I always had a mad crush on Ren Stevens.
Great show. So funny. Such a great show. Best episode of that show, by the way, is the one where they put the band together, and it was like that show on MTV, Behind the Music. That was a phenomenal episode, by the way. The Twitty Stevens Connection was the name of the band. A little trivia for you out there. But number 4 for me on my list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up, Hey Arnold, classic cartoon. Made me want to live in New York. The episode where they build the baseball diamond in the empty lot was phenomenal. Great episode. Everyone wanted Arnold's room growing up. It was just a great show all around. So Hey Arnold's number 4 for me. Alex, let's hear number 3 for you on your list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up.
Number 3 for me, Whose Line Is It Anyways? Me and my dad used to watch that shit all the time and just die laughing. Those guys, comedy gold. I mean,
it really was comedy gold, and the funniest thing about that show is as a little kid you didn't catch like the moments that your dad or mom may laugh that were like super sexual. That show was great. It was a super, super funny show. Ian, what's number 3 for you, brother?
Number 3 for me, going Nickelodeon, going cartoon this time with Ren and Stimpy. Absolutely loved Ren and Stimpy. Had a lot of adult humor in it that I didn't pick up until later on, going back and watching all the old episodes on VHS. But I had like all the collector like stuffed animals ones. There were ones where they both farted if you squeezed it. Those were great. Had all the comic books. Loved Ren and Stimpy.
Great show. Number 3 for me. Now I'm going to bundle number 3. I couldn't pick just one, so I'm going to do all the Nickelodeon game shows. Whether it's Nickelodeon Guts, whether it's Legends of the Hidden Temple, What Would You Do, Double Dare, you name it, they were all fantastic. Everything about them. My biggest regret in life is not signing up to go on Nickelodeon Guts, because I feel like I would have lifted the glowing piece of the Radical Rock. I definitely feel like I would have won that. I think business idea for anyone who's listening to our podcast and you got millions of dollars, buy a warehouse, buy the rights to all this Nickelodeon game stuff, and just put all this stuff in a warehouse. Put the aggro crag in there. Put that one game where they jump off with the bungee cord and shoot the basketballs. Put the Legend of the Hidden Temple thing in there. Real quick side note about Legends of the Hidden Temple. How come nobody could fucking put together the Shrine of the Silver Monkey? It was literally only 3 pieces, and one of them was the head. So how can nobody put that thing together? Anyways, put all this stuff in a warehouse. I would give you my life savings to go in there and just run through this place. Fantastic idea. You should do it. So for me, number 3 is all the Nickelodeon game shows. They were just all phenomenal. Moving on, Alex, number 2 for you on your list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up.
Number 2, American Gladiators, the original, not the remake that they tried to do a couple years ago. I used to always, kind of like how you just described, always imagined running through the scenario, getting shot at by the tennis ball cannons, and the crazy names of the super steroid jack people on there. My cousin used to always, Turbo.
Blaze.
But now I love that show.
It was a great show. It was so good. I mean, who wouldn't want to do all that stuff? Do you remember the old video game American Gladiators? How fucking impossible it was to put those balls. Remember that one game where you had to put the balls in the garbage can, pretty much, and it would like light up. That part of that video game was so impossible for Super Nintendo, but that was a great show. Number 2 for you, Ian, on your list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up.
Number 2 for me, even though it's been tainted recently by Mr. Screech, Saved by the Bell. Still obsessed with Tiffany Amber Thiessen. Think she's closing in on 50 now, but still a Fox. Love me some Kelly Kapowski. I even loved the reboot with the college years. Didn't care much for the new class, but the college years and then the specials they did, like coming back for Zach and Kelly's wedding, that was a good one. So Saved by the Bell, number 2 for me.
The best thing about Saved by the Bell was it was on before school. So whenever you're getting up, getting ready, waiting for the bus, or waiting to drive to school, it was on, and it was a great show. So definitely a good show. Number 2 for me on my list, back to Nickelodeon cartoons, Doug. Phenomenal show. Just everything about it was just great. I mean, he had a blue friend named Skeeter. I mean, that's
Patty
so
Mayonnaise.
great. Patty Mayonnaise, the Honker Burger, Roger Klotz. I mean, just
Mr. Dink.
everything about that show was so good. Such a classic show. If you go back and watch it, it's still good. It's still funny. So number 2 for me is Nickelodeon's Doug. All right, number 1, Alex, on your list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up.
Number 1, I still watch it to this day. Anytime I'm flipping through and it's on, Boy Meets World. It's a classic. I don't know anybody who does not like that show.
It's the fucking best. That's for sure. Ian, number 1 for you.
Damn, I forgot Boy Meets World. Oh God, I feel terrible.
Yeah, that's a big mistake on your part.
That and Home Improvement. I felt bad about Home Improvement, but I feel worse about Boy Meets World. Number 1 for me, if you tuned into the podcast where we gave you our favorite shows of all time, it was my favorite show of all time. I just remember growing up every Thursday night watching Seinfeld with my dad. It was my favorite show growing up. It's still my favorite show now. Got all the box sets, still watch all the old episodes. You can just apply Seinfeld to everything in life. There's always a Seinfeldism that you can apply to something that you get yourself into each and every day.
Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorites for sure. Number 1 for me, Alex said it, Boy Meets World. Just the best. It's one of the best shows ever made, in my opinion. Every character was great, and I actually preferred the episodes when they're older. I just think that Eric was so funny and such a dumbass character, but he was so good. Corey became like really stupid, and he was hilarious. Everything about the show, just an amazing show. One of the best things you can purchase on Amazon is the Boy Meets World box set. I think it's like $30 on there. It's just absolute steal. So Boy Meets World, number 1 for me, by far, is my favorite show growing up. So that's our list of top 5 favorite TV shows growing up in honor of Mr. Dustin Diamond, a.k.a. Screech Powers, being arrested for violating parole. Get it together, Screech, please. Moving on, let's get into some Ohio sports with you guys. Let's talk a little Browns. Your Brownies. Not much going on right now with the Browns. On Wednesday, they signed 4th-round pick cornerback Derrick Kindred out of TCU. They followed that up on Thursday by officially signing 2nd-round pick linebacker Emmanuel Ogbah out of Oklahoma State. That makes it 8 of the Browns draft picks have been signed, 6 left unsigned, including your boy, QB Cody Kessler out of USC. What's going on with your Browns, man?
Yeah, we've got 8 of them signed to a contract. The roster sits at 90 right now, so we're maxed out there. But, I still think we're going to sign a few of these guys left. Kessler, I think we're going to sign him. I think we're going to definitely sign Nassib. Ricardo Lewis, the wide receiver out of Auburn, I think they're going to end up signing him. I didn't really understand the whole draft pick, the tight end from Princeton. He might get a shot. But, yeah, there's 6 guys left. The Browns are just out there doing their OTAs and got some players that are performing well. Joe Hayden's been talking about it a lot. He's super excited about what he sees. The offensive coach, Pep Hamilton, he's super stoked about what he's seeing right now, especially with the running backs. And then everybody is just raving about Ray Horton's defense right now. Early on in OTAs, just talking like he's never, it's like he never left Cleveland. And a lot of people when you talk Cleveland Browns football, they bring up how good the defense was a few years ago, and that was because of Ray Horton. So to hear that so early in this, I'm not trying to get my hopes up, but definitely sounds like Ray Horton's got his crew working well, and pieces will eventually fall into place. The Browns will get back to where they need to get. Got a tough schedule this year, but you got to take it day by day, and they're out there trying to get better. They got a super young team, and they got a lot of guys out there with chips on their shoulder.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a defensive guy, man. I like winning games 3-0. I think it's phenomenal to see defenses get to the quarterback, just keep your team in a game, and that's exactly what the Browns need. They need the resurgence of that defense. A couple of years ago, you guys were phenomenal on defense, and you guys had lockdown corners. Hayden was a beast. I mean, and that's what you need in the AFC North, which I continue to say is the best division in football, and I'll argue that with anybody. I mean, the Bengals are a front runner. They've become a really great team. The Steelers are always going to be good, and the Ravens are always going to be good. They were just injured last year. So for the Browns to be good, they got to be able to keep these teams off the board as much as possible, because you guys have had woes on offense, which it's going to get better, like I've told you. But yeah, man, that's great news to hear. The Browns are looking good in OTAs and whatnot. So not much else going on with your Browns right now, but that's definitely good news, and a lot for the Cleveland Brown fans to hang their hat on. Let's move on. Let's talk about our Bengals, Alex. Some big pieces of news coming out this past week. The Bengals worked out 7-time Pro Bowler Dwight Freeney earlier this week. Freeney, I don't know how the workout went, but he left the Bengals facility without a contract, and apparently is heading to Atlanta to work out with the Falcons next week. Freeney had 8 sacks last season with the Arizona Cardinals. Do you guys think he'd be a good fit in Cincinnati?
I think he would with his leadership role. I mean, if you look at him when he was with the Colts, I mean, he's a huge leader on the field. I think the Bengals need that to step up. I mean, if you look at our defense from last year, who was really our leader? I mean, there was different guys that tried to step up, but no one really had that defense under control, which really showed in the playoff game where everything got out of hand, penalties, stupid penalties. I know they brought in A.J. Hawk last year. They thought his presence was going to be big. I think you have a big guy like Freeney up front. I think he could take charge, and I don't know how his workout went. I hope it went well. I hope we can sign him for a year, maybe 2.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good signing, personally. I mean, they signed a really great veteran leader in Carlos Dansby. I know, Ian, you can attest to that.
Oh, yeah.
And Dansby, by the way, came out this week and said he's never been around a more talented team than the Cincinnati Bengals team. So that's definitely some encouraging news. But I think we kind of know that as Bengals fans. I think outsider looking in, Ian, you being around me all the time, you can kind of see how good this Bengals team is and how good that roster is. But I think Freeney would be a great pick. I think he'd be great for those guys to learn from on the defensive line. He showed last year he still has some left in the tank. He had 8 sacks, I think, last year for the Cardinals, and he only played like third down. So he's a beast still. So I think it'd be a good fit for the Bengals if they can sign him cheap. But moving on with the Bengals, a couple other pieces of news. On Wednesday, the Bengals officially signed 4th-round draft pick defensive tackle Andrew Billings out of Baylor to a 4-year deal worth around $2.9 million. That makes 6 of their 7 picks signed. The only pick that has not signed is their 1st-round draft pick, cornerback William Jackson, the 3rd. Which that deal is being worked out apparently, so that's good news. The biggest news of the week, though, this one sucks. Tight end Tyler Eifert. It was reported on Tuesday that tight end Tyler Eifert had to have a minimal procedure done on his injured left ankle, which he injured in the Pro Bowl. The recovery time is supposedly 3 months. Now, Eifert tweeted out on Friday, "Surgery was a success, and I'm on the mend. Thanks to Dr. Anderson, I'll be 100% soon. I appreciate the support!" So that would be a huge blow if Eifert misses any time for the Bengals to start this season. Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, everything that I was looking at earlier, everyone was talking about. If he's out, there goes the catches, the offense, his presence. My main thing is his blocking ability. I mean, he's more than just a receiving tight end. His presence on the field. I mean, if he's running a route, he's taking that second guy with him just because of how dangerous he is. He's gotten that reputation like Gronk, where they're like, oh shit, we can't leave this guy open. But if he's not even running a route, his blocking ability is unbelievable, and that opens up our run game. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just our passing game that would be down if he's out. Our run game would be hurting too.
Absolutely. Ian, you have any thoughts on this?
I think the Bengals have enough to be able to win those games if he has to miss a few of the early ones. He definitely adds so much more to that offensive team. And Alex said it perfect. A lot of guys look at him, or a lot of fans look at him as what he can do as far as catching the ball and kind of being an extra wide receiver, like being a possession guy. But no, exactly what Alex said. He does so much for that run game and opening up the run game with his blocking. And really, if there wasn't a Gronk in the NFL, I think everybody would be talking Tyler Eifert, because Tyler Eifert's, quietly becoming, a top 2 tight end in the league with Gronk. It's definitely a big hit to the team if the injury does, sideline him for the first few games of the season.
Yeah, I actually saw Tyler at Cincy Beer Fest a while back, and I talked to him for a little bit. He was in a walking boot, and he said everything was cool. They were testing it out, and at the time they were just seeing if it would heal on its own. It didn't react right, so they had the surgery now. Hopefully that he'll be back by 3 months. Isn't that bad. I just hope he doesn't go backwards at all. I hope that everything goes fine with it. I hope he doesn't have to have any more operations. I've heard a lot of people chirping me saying that he's soft, and no way, dude. Like, if you look at the injury, you look at the injuries from him, the elbow thing, freak injury. That's a freak injury. That never happens. It's just his arm planted the wrong way. Concussions are a part of the game. Every one of those guys gets them. So, I mean, that's just freak stuff that just happens to him. He's not soft. He's the X factor to our offense. He makes Andy Dalton so much more comfortable in the pocket when you have a huge tight end that's great at running routes and has baby soft hands that you can throw it to. He's a great tight end. He's a great catching tight end. He's putting up stats that the Bengals franchise hasn't seen from a tight end in years. I mean, he was so dominant in the red zone last year for the Bengals. He opens up A.J. Green, and like you guys said, he opens up the run, because in the red zone you have to decide, do I want to commit to the run, or do I want to put somebody on Eifert, double team him? A.J. Green, what do I do? So he's just such a pivotal part to this team. He's so important to the Bengals offense. So hopefully things go well with his recovery. Tyler, we're hoping you get a speedy recovery, brother. Let's move on. Stay in Cincinnati. Let's talk a little Reds baseball. The Reds are horrible, like so bad right now. It's not even fun to watch. The Reds, since the last time we talked to you guys, the Reds got swept in 4 games for the Battle of Ohio against the Indians. They also got swept in 3 games by the Mariners in Cincinnati. They followed that up by being swept in 3 games to the Dodgers. And if you are counting at home, that's a 10-game losing streak that the Reds went on. They actually lost tonight on Friday, so that's 11 games in a row the Cincinnati Reds have lost. Holy shit, they're terrible right now. I don't really have much to say on the Reds. We can beat the same dead horse week in and week out. Their bullpen sucks. We get it. Their pitching staff's fucking terrible. Their offense, like I was telling you guys before the game, I mean, they're putting up runs, and typically when a team puts up 4 or 5 runs, you expect them to win the game. Not the Reds. We can't hold on to a lead. Terrible. It's just so terrible. I feel bad for Brian Price right now, Ian.
Yeah, I feel really bad for him. He definitely doesn't do a whole lot to help his case by, mismanaging just some of the managerial spots where he has the opportunity to shine with some of the things he could do. But, I mean, you're only as good as the players that they give you. And, that bullpen, all these fans just eating, Brian Price alive. Like, oh, come on, he's a pitching coach. Why is that bullpen so bad? Well, it's so bad because we don't have any talent in that bullpen. And, the relief pitchers, there's not a ton of them out there that are great in the major leagues to begin with. You've got your closers, so that right there is your 30 best relief pitchers in the league. And then these other guys just develop. Some of them are former starters. Some of them just came up through the minors. It's so hit and miss with relief pitching, and that's why we're seeing a ton of different guys. That's why we're seeing a call-up and a send-down from AAA every other day. We're trying to see, Brian Price in the front office is trying to see, if they can get guys up that'll do well. I've been a big advocate for, when Michael Lorenzen becomes healthy, try Michael Lorenzen out there in the bullpen. I think Michael Lorenzen would become a good closer because of how well he starts games, but, he couldn't get past that third inning. But at the end of the day, you're only as good as, the players your team gives you. And right now, the Reds have more bad players than they do good players.
Yeah, it's pretty bad right now. I think the Reds will only get maybe one All-Star in at this point. If the All-Star game was tomorrow, I think Zach Cozart would be the only All-Star vote. I mean, Alex, what do you think?
I think the same thing. I mean, most of the games that I catch, I listen to on the radio on 700 WLW, and I think it was 2 or 3 nights ago, they had the Ask Marty section. They said, Marty, who do you think is the breakout player of the year for the Reds? And they just started cracking up. They're still waiting on him. I mean, there is no breakout player. I mean, Cozart, he even said Cozart's the only person that's, playing all right now, especially coming off the injury from last year. But this team, this is why I drink.
Oh, definitely. It's historically bad. I mean, people laughed at us when we said, we gave our preseason predictions, Ian, that we said, they're going to lose 100 games. And people are like, No way. This team won't lose 100 games. And the Reds started off with a sweep of the Phillies, and everyone was all excited. And everyone's like, oh, yeah, this team's really good. Now, if this team had a bullpen, I think they're a wild card team because they're putting up tons of runs right now, and they've shown that they can hang with any team. It's just their pitching staff is so fucking terrible. But everyone laughed at us when we said 100 games, and it's not looking funny right now. They're on their way to the number 1 pick. They look terrible, Ian.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And I was joking with my dad the other day. He's like, man, just how bad is this Reds team? And I said, well, Dad, we've got the number 2 pick this year in this year's draft. That's just not good enough. We want that number 1 pick. We want a Bryce Harper. We want a Mike Trout. And there's nobody. There's, if you read into the MLB pipeline stuff and you see who's out there for the draft this year, it's pretty underwhelming right now. But then again, you don't know who you're going to get. But I was like, you know what? The Reds are just tanking. They want that number 1 pick.
Yeah, well, tanking sucks when you turn on Fox Sports Ohio to a Reds game and there's 20 people in the stands and the bullpen is blowing a 3-run lead in the 8th inning. It's just fucking terrible. And speaking of the draft, doesn't matter who we pick with it. We'll probably take some no-name that'll fizzle out in a few years, and someone like Mike Trout will go. Like year in and year out, the Reds. If you want to, our listeners out there, if you want to be super depressed and pick up a drink and just do tons of shots in one night, go on Wikipedia and search previous MLB drafts. Look at who the Reds took and who went after them. I mean, start in like the 90s and work your way up. It is the most depressing thing you will ever do. I mean, the likes of Mike Trout, Derek Jeter. You can name, Kershaw. You can name just tons and tons. Max Scherzer. You name tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of superstar players, and then look at the people the Reds drafted that are no longer even in the fucking league. That are like bagging groceries at Kroger's. It's terribly depressing. So if you want to be super depressed, go do that. It's staggering how bad it is. But the Reds are terrible. Not much else going on with that. We're just going to continue to watch them slide. I think they're, what's the record, like 15-33 or something right now? I don't know. It's bad though. Yeah, 15-3. It's bad. Let's move on. I'm getting angry talking about the Reds. Let's do a little housekeeping with the Columbus CrewSC. Last Saturday, like Alex mentioned, the Crew played to a 0-0 draw with Toronto FC. The Crew still sit in ninth place in the Eastern Conference with 11 points. They are 8 points behind first place Philadelphia. Bad news coming out of the Crew camp. Unfortunately, center back Gaston Soro tore his PCL in his left knee in the 31st minute of that game against Toronto. Thankfully, Soro will not need an operation to repair the damage, but he is expected to be sidelined for 4 to 5 months. Huge loss for the Crew because Soro was a pivotal piece to their MLS Cup final run last season. It just keeps getting worse for the Crew. I don't know. We'll see how that plays out. Not much going on with them right now. They're struggling bad. I mean, sucks at Kaikawara.
This weekend.
Yep, yeah. So Salt Lake this weekend. Hopefully they can get a win. They need 3 points big time. But let's move on. Let's talk a little Cavs basketball. So for those of you who may not have heard, the Cleveland Cavaliers have advanced to the NBA Finals. This is LeBron's 6th straight Finals appearance. That is an unreal feat. I think only 8 players have done that before in NBA history. I don't know the players, but I'm pretty sure it's 8. Huge feat by LeBron, and the Cavs defeated the Raptors 4-2. It was a pretty good series, actually. Toronto played better than I thought they would. But Cavs to the finals. They will face the winner of the Golden State versus Oklahoma City series, and the Thunder currently lead that series 3-2, and I think it's in Oklahoma City on Saturday. So could be facing the Thunder, and they look really good right now, the Thunder do. But the Cavs starting to they struggled there for 2 games, and then they kind of came around. LeBron had a huge game on Friday night. In the playoffs right now, the big 3 for the Cavs are doing some damage. LeBron's averaging about 24 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, and 7 assists. Kyrie's averaging about 24 points a game, and Kevin Love is averaging about 17 points per game and 9.5 rebounds. So pretty good stuff from the Cavs, E.
Yeah, the 2 games they dropped in Toronto, Jared, you and I have talked about it and said it numerous times. If the Cavaliers, if they're going to win this whole thing and they're going to bring a championship to Cleveland, they've got to have the production from all 3 of the guys. You've said it time and time again. No matter what, LeBron's going to get his. But Kyrie's got to step up. Kyrie's got to put his points in, distribute the ball well. Love needs to put in his points and clean up the boards. And every game the Cavaliers have won, they've had the big 3 produce. Those 2 games that they lost in Toronto, LeBron scored in the 20s. He got his and had fantastic games. But, Kyrie was like 12 or 13 points. One night, I think it was Game 3, Love had 3 points and 7 rebounds. And then Game 4, Love had 10 points. So, I mean, if the Cavaliers want to do this, if the Cavaliers want to accomplish this feat and bring the championship home to Cleveland, they've got to have consistent play between the big 3, and the supporting cast just needs to keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I've sat on this show before, and we talked about how good Steph Curry is, but I said on this show that America loves to build up athletes and celebrities and then tear them the fuck down once they're at their peak and we're just tired of them. And I think that's kind of what's happening with Steph Curry right now. It's funny to me watching Golden State struggle, and everybody says, "Oh, well, Steph Curry's hurt. He's hurt." But they won on Thursday night, and nobody's talking about him being hurt anymore. So that's always a funny scenario for me. I hope Golden State loses. I don't care about them. I kind of want to see Oklahoma City in the finals because I think it would be a better finals. I think Russell Westbrook is the best point guard in the league, and I've said that on here multiple times. I thought he got robbed on the MVP voting. I thought he should have been higher. Ian, you weren't happy with Steph being unanimous. I don't think none of us were because Jordan wasn't even unanimous. I think what Golden State did in the regular season is awesome. I think winning all those games, but they've kind of become a team that I like to hate now. I don't like Draymond Green. He all that kicking Steven Adams and kicking Russell Westbrook in the face. how he didn't get suspended is insanity. I mean, that's just ratings right there. He should have been absolutely suspended. I think watching Durant and Westbrook play, they're smooth, man. Russell Westbrook's a monster, and I've said that to average. I mean, he had 18, 19 triple doubles in the regular season. That's a stupid number. I mean, we're so numb to triple doubles now that it's like it's nothing, but it's not. He's a beast. I'm sick of Golden State. Fuck them. I hope they lose. I'm sick of their fans. I'm sick of all that. I'm sick of hearing about them. You know, I really want the Cavs to get this one this year. I want LeBron to bring one to Cleveland. I think Cleveland fans deserve it. I think it's going to be a good finals, whoever they face. I think Golden State, they can. I don't know. I think Oklahoma State's going to win it. Golden State may be able to force a Game 7, but I think Oklahoma State's going to win it. I mean, Alex, what do you think?
I mean, for me, basketball ends when March Madness is over. I'm not an NBA guy. I kind of wanted to go to a Game 7, though. I love Game 7, just that anticipation. Any sport that goes to the final of a series. But I really don't care about NBA. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
I'm curious about one thing, Jared.
Hold on.
Go Cavs.
Alex, hold on. Hold on. My mic is burning up. That was a super hot take. On to Ian. Ian, what's your thoughts?
There's just one question I want answered, and it's if Oklahoma City pulls this off and knocks out Golden State, where are all these Golden State fans going to go now? Because they came out of the woodwork last year. They had the biggest fan base ever, and I didn't even know Golden State still had a team in the league. So I want to know where all these fans are going to go now if Oklahoma City pulls this off.
Hopefully the Lakers will be good again.
Yeah, once the Lakers are good again, I'm sure they'll go there. Or if LeBron leaves Cleveland, they'll go wherever LeBron goes. But if LeBron wins one in Cleveland, he's staying. I thought if the Cavs were to hypothetically lose the Eastern Conference Finals, I think it would have got real interesting because I think LeBron may have tested free agency. I mean, ultimately, I think he's there to stay and retire in Cleveland. But I think it would have got real interesting because he's kind of a diva. But I agree with you, Ian. I can't stand him. I can't stand Golden State. I mean, Steph's a beast, man. Steph is an absolute beast. But I'm just sick of it.
It's not fair to him because he's not, he's out there doing his job. It's not fair to him. It's what the media blows out of proportion. They suck this guy off, and then, like you said, they build these guys up and then they tear them down. And because they just blast us with all this coverage of him, we end up hating him. And he's just out there doing his job. He's not a dirty player. He's a damn good ball player and probably one of the best shooters, top 3 shooters we'll ever see in our lifetime.
Oh, absolutely. He's phenomenal. And the problem with it, why we're starting to hate Golden State, or why I am, is ESPN. ESPN is the fucking worst. They're the worst. If you watch Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless and guys like that, they're insane. ESPN is terrible. They're terrible. They pump out the same sludge over and over and over. And I started talking to a lot of people about it. And if you watch ESPN, they say things like, let me point out that I believe OKC will win this series, but if anyone could beat them, it's Golden State. No shit. Like, that is the only 2 outcomes that could happen in that scenario. That's what ESPN does. They say both sides of they pick both sides of the coin. So when it happens, they say that they did it. And Michael Wilbon is the worst at it. Michael Wilbon says stuff like that all the time. I heard someone say on there, I think it'll be Cleveland versus Oklahoma City, but if anyone can change that, it's Golden State and Toronto. Yeah, that's it. That's the only 4 teams left. No shit. That's all that can happen.
I'll bet on those odds.
Yeah, ESPN is the worst. They're the worst. If you want to listen to real sports talk, listen to Dan Patrick. Listen to Colin Cowherd has been good since he left ESPN. Those guys at ESPN they're so controlled there. The worst. The worst. They're the worst. I'm so sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about Golden State. And guess what, Golden State fans? Your record means dick if you don't win a championship. It means nothing. The Chicago Bulls had the shirts made in the 90s. It don't mean a thing unless you got that ring. And that's the fucking truth. Because that record means nothing. It means nothing. LeBron's been to 6 straight championships. It doesn't matter if he doesn't win one. I think this is the year, man. I think this is the year for Cleveland. I hope I don't jinx it, but I think it's the year.
Man, I hope so. I'm not, because if the Cavaliers don't do it, I can go ahead and tell you the Browns ain't going to do it. I mean,
Indians look good. Indians look good right now, though.
The Indians do look good. We just got the UFC heavyweight championship too, so
yeah.
Cleveland's got one title. We're trying to add another.
Nobody cares about the UFC. Nobody cares about the UFC, Ian.
Don't hate.
Nobody. No, I'm just saying that because it's Cleveland that won it. It's like once you guys win, it's like nobody fucking cares. It would have been hilarious if after he won the championship, the belt, the UFC folded. Like no one just fucking cared anymore, and his belt became like non-existent. Like
actually, Dana White's talking about selling it.
Yeah, but whatever. I mean,
I tell you what I'm real worried about. His next fight, I think he's the headliner for UFC 203. They're bringing it to Cleveland. And I'm like, watch this guy get killed in the octagon. Watch it happen. First time they've ever been in Cleveland. They're bringing it to his hometown, and he's just going to get demolished. But Stipe, if you're listening, I love you, bud.
That was like when Rich Franklin fought in Cincinnati and he fought Anderson Silva and he came out to Welcome to the Jungle and got fucking destroyed that fight, dude. So that was pretty awesome. But yeah, man. I mean, that's awesome for the city of Cleveland. That belt, I guess that means something. I don't know. But,
that's all we got, brother.
I know. I'm not gonna talk too much shit because he'll hear this episode and fucking come at me. He'll come at my throat. So, hey, man, congrats, good job for the city of Cleveland. You guys needed that. So I'm a huge fan, man. I'm in your corner. Let's move on. Let's do our OSR Mailbag segment. This is where we answer questions from you, the fans. This week we have a couple questions via our Facebook page. Mr. Ricky Barker wants to know, what veteran players do you guys want the Bengals to get by the beginning of the season in free agency? Alex.
Well, I mean, Freeney's already been there. You know, he's already practiced with us. I would like him. If not, Dolphins defensive end, Oliver Vernon, who, I mean, comes off, puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback. He's still a free agent last I checked. I think, might be wrong. He might have re-signed. I know they were talking about whether or not they could afford him and their other defensive end. But I think his presence up front would be good for us.
Anyone else?
I think.
Go ahead, E.
I think a good signing for you guys outside of Freeney, because I didn't get to say anything about Freeney earlier, but like you guys mentioned about Hawk, they brought Hawk in to be a leader on that defense, and then Alex kind of touched on it. You know, once all the shenanigans happened in that Steelers game, if Dwight Freeney comes out there to pull you away from something like that happening again, you're not going to say no to Dwight Freeney. And I think Dwight Freeney would, you know, he's not going to play every down. And, you know, I'm a Cardinals fan as well. So watching him with Arizona last year, and Jared, you mentioned it, he was like primarily a third down guy and absolutely phenomenal on defense. I think he would add so much to that team with leadership and could get those guys straightened out, just some of the immaturity. But I think also someone that you guys got to look at, you know, just to add some depth at wide receiver, I think Anquan Bolden would be a good signing for you guys.
I was going to say Bolden. I think he'd be a good signing just to give us a little depth at wide receiver. I think Freeney would be a good signing. And you said no one's going to walk away, and no one's going to keep. If Freeney's pulling you away, no one's going to fight him on that. Have you seen Vontaze Burfict? He's kind of fucking crazy. So.
Crazy or stupid?
No, he's crazy. He's crazy and stupid. You have to be stupid to play football. I don't think he's stupid in the head. I think he's just fucked up in the head. Like all football players are, especially defensive players. Like you got to be kind of nuts to attack someone over and over and over. But some of those guys know how to turn it off. He does not know how to turn it off when he's on the line, in between the lines. He's just kind of crazy stupid. You know what I mean?
It's too many times leading with his head on the tackle.
Yeah, he's so important to the Bengals, though. And he's a really cool guy, by the way. Like, he gets a lot of bad flack, but he's super cool, by the way. I've met him a couple times. He is super cool. So, yeah, I don't know. I think Freeney and Bolden would be awesome. Thank you, Ricky, for the question, though. Let's move on. Dean Lanier wants to know, How do we think the Ohio State Buckeyes will be? Alex, I know you're not a Buckeyes guy, so Ian, how do you think the Buckeyes are going to be this year?
The draft, man, we took a big hit in the draft. Ohio State's one of those programs that always reload. I think this is going to be a year that we really see how good of a coach Urban Meyer can be. He's a hell of a recruiter. He gets those guys to play for him, and he's a hell of a coach. He develops them and everything, but we're really going to see one of his best coaching performances this year because he lost a lot of talent on both sides of that ball. And I'm excited for it because I'm kind of going into this season not knowing what to expect. I mean, he's got his 5-star guys that he recruited. They had a good recruiting class, but there's a lot of holes. But there's still a lot of veterans on that team that can keep them in line and stuff. So I think it's going to be an interesting season. But Urban, week one, Urban always has those guys ready.
Yeah, because they play like Delaware State week 1. But I don't know, Dean. I think they're going to be good. I'm a Buckeyes fan, but I know our schedule was shitty, whatever. Big Ten, it's always tough. So Michigan's on the rise for sure. Wisconsin had a down year last year, but they're going to be better. Penn State's obviously a tough game. I don't know. I think they'll be okay. They lost a lot of players to the draft, but Urban's got those guys, man. He's got JT Barrett back, so Barrett, that's huge, having a quarterback who's played a lot of games, who's been under center, who's a smart kid. Hopefully he can stay out of trouble. I think they'll be okay. I'm really not worried. I mean, losing Zeke Elliott that sucks. Zeke's one of my favorite Buckeyes of all time, so that sucks. But I don't know, Dean. I think they'll be okay. I don't think we should worry about it. Can't wait for college football to start, by the way. But thank you for the question, Dean. Moving on, Mr. Dan Combs via our Facebook page wants to know, does Marvin Lewis need to win a playoff game to keep his job this year? Alex?
Oh, man, that's the question year in and year out. For me, I mean, as long as he keeps winning and taking us there, I think they're going to keep giving him that 1-year extension. Yes, he does need to win a playoff game for a long term. I mean, he always says if he wins the Super Bowl, he's retiring. He's done. But for right now, I think as long as he keeps a winning record and keeps producing, I think he's safe for at least another 2 years without a win.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Ian, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's asinine, the idea of getting rid of him because he hasn't won a playoff game. He gets you there year in and year out, and yeah, I know it sucks. I know it sucks watching your team lose year in and year out in that first game, but, I mean, who else is out there that you would bring in to coach?
Yeah.
Marvin Lewis has proven that he is, a top NFL coach. He's, now that Coughlin's gone, isn't he the longest tenured coach in the NFL?
No, Belichick is.
Belichick, my bad.
Yeah.
So I mean, he doesn't need to win a playoff game to coach another year. He's got that job as long as he wants it.
Yeah, I agree. This team is so good, and the thing with the Bengals is you got to remember where we were at one point.
Mm-hmm.
He's dug us out of that, like I've said over and over. He got us to the point that we're at now. A lot of the playoff losses that they've had have been just weird scenarios, like all of our wide receivers getting hurt. We don't have Andy Dalton. With the best team we've had in a long time, our quarterback's out. I mean, just little things like happen throughout the season, toward the end of the season, which are unfortunate and just kind of screw us in the end. Marvin's done a fantastic job in Cincinnati. I agree with Ian. Who else is out there? Name a coach. Everybody says, well, there's tons of good college coaches. Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer is not going to do shit in the NFL if he comes here. His style of offense does not work in the NFL. The spread offense does not work in the NFL. It's been proven over and over, and you're going to see in San Francisco how much it doesn't work again with Chip Kelly. So
how good of a job did Nick Saban do in Miami?
Yeah, Nick Saban would never leave Alabama again. Why would he? I mean, he learned his lesson. He comes back, dominates, picks up Alabama, who was shit when he took over. They weren't as good as what we know Alabama as now, and he's dominated. He's built a dynasty there. So college coaches, I understand that they want to they want to test themselves. I mean, you go to basketball, John Calipari, he's the best recruiter in the game right now. Went to the NBA, was fucking terrible in the NBA, came back, and he's done well. College coaches that are dominant in college usually stay there for a reason. And I think Urban Meyer, I think he's set at Ohio State. It's his dream job. I don't think he's going to leave there. I just don't see any college coaches, any coaches in the NFL that could replace Marvin and hop in and win us 12 games. I don't see it. I know he's getting older. I know sooner or later he's going to have to pass the reins off, and it sucks it wasn't Hugh Jackson because I wanted Hugh as our next head coach. I wanted Mike Zimmer as our next head coach, but I understand those guys have to move on and try to succeed somewhere else. So I don't see anyone else out there that's better than Marvin Lewis, Dan. But that's a good question. Hopefully he can get us a playoff win. Hopefully we can get a fucking bye. That would be huge, just mentally getting a bye in the playoffs. But thank you, Dan. And Dan actually has a second question. He wants to talk a little hockey. He wants to know who do we think, I think this will be for me, but who do we think the Blue Jackets take with the 4th pick? Now, last week we talked about it. I said Jesse Puljujarvi. He seems to be the consensus pick from then for the Blue Jackets with that pick. He's from Finland. He led the World Juniors in scoring with 5 goals and 12 assists in just 7 games. They really need help with goal scorers. They had the 19th worst ranked scoring offense in the NFL. Sorry, and I just think they need anyone that can produce goals, and Puljujarvi has proven that he can do that, Dan. So I think that would be a good pick for them. But there's a lot of good wingers and centers in the draft. So hopefully the Blue Jackets can get some help. Rough season for them this past year, and I hate to see them at the bottom of the NHL. But thank you for the question, brother.
You're forgetting a very big name, Jared.
Let's hear it.
Lester Averman.
Yeah, anyone from the Mighty Ducks franchise would be a good pick. I think they're all like 60 now, or like they're all pretty old. I think if I'm going to take anyone from the Mighty Ducks franchise, the Blue Jackets are set at goal. You need a leader. I'm going to take Charlie Conway because Charlie Conway he's going to come out and he's going to score you goals. No, actually, I changed it. I'm taking Adam Banks. I'm taking the Cake Eater. Offensively, skills-wise, he's the best player on the Ducks. So I'm taking the Cake Eater, Adam Banks. But thank you for the question, Daniel. One final question from Mr. Patrick Williams via our Facebook page. He says, "Is there any news on the Dwight Freeney front?" Now we kind of addressed that earlier. No news. He's moving on to Atlanta. But Patrick wants to know, do you think his visit to Atlanta is just a ploy for him to try to get more money? Because Freeney has said that he wants to play for a contender, and Patrick doesn't believe that Atlanta is quote-unquote a contender at the moment. I don't know. Ian, what are your thoughts?
I think Atlanta can be a contender. Dan Quinn took over that team, and they just had a series of unfortunate events happen to them. But they at the end of the day, they got one of the best wide receivers in the game with Julio Jones. Matt Ryan's a serviceable quarterback. Dan Quinn's a defensive guy. I think another thing that's weighing heavy on Dwight Freeney, not necessarily the money. Some of these guys, and especially Freeney, I'm not trying to say he still can't play, but a lot of these guys who have successful careers refuse to believe that maybe they've lost a step in their game. And I think Freeney also wants to kind of take a look to see where he may get the most amount of playing time at. As far as contenders, on paper, Cincinnati's obviously a much better contender than Atlanta, but Atlanta could come right back out and there for 3-4 years they were on top of that division in the NFC. They were having good seasons, and they just fell on hard times recently. But I think Freeney's more so looking at where he's going to get the maximum amount of playing time and what would be the best deal for him. So I could see him going either way there.
Completely agree with what Ian said, Patrick, and I couldn't say it better myself. So I'm going to agree with Ian on this one, but thank you for the question, brother. We do appreciate it. And that's it for OSR Mailbag this week. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions. We're going to move on to a new segment that we're going to call What's Good. What's Good is going to be a segment where we just tell you something that we're really enjoying at the moment, whether it's a book, a movie, TV show, video game, whatever it is, just something what's good that's going on in our world right now. So, Alex, we'll start with you, man. What's good?
What's good for me? The Lumineers' new album, Cleopatra. I've been listening to that album on repeat while I'm at school, while I'm at the gym, in the car. I There's not a bad song on it. You can just hit play from song number one, let it roll through. Love that album.
Their first album was really good. I've not heard that one. I've heard that Ophelia song, and that's a great song. So, yeah, that's awesome, man. Ian, what's good?
Great album, Alex. Great choice. This past weekend's was a really busy weekend for me. I actually officiated my first wedding, but when my TV was on this past weekend, I had it on Access TV. They televised the Hangout Fest from Gulf Shores, Alabama. I was jealous of every single one of those people that were down there. You had acts like, ex-ambassadors, Walk the Moon, Calvin Harris, Florence and the Machine, Alabama Shakes. I mean, there was tons more. It was a 3-day festival. Just an excellent show to watch on TV, and they cut a lot of it out, but you got to see about anywhere from a half hour to hour sets from these people. I couldn't even imagine being there. I'm just sure that it would be a great time to be there, but that's what's good with me.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for Bunbury Music Festival coming up. Florence and the Machine's going to be there. It's going to be a real good festival. So if anyone's going to be there, let me know, because we'll meet up and we'll get a few beers. What's good for me right now, as you guys know, I'm a podcast guy, obviously. We have our own podcast. I listen to a lot of other podcasts, helps me get ideas and stuff for our show, and I'd just like to hear what other people are out there are doing. A couple podcasts I'm really enjoying right now, The Leisureman. That's a super awesome podcast. Now, for those of you who listen to our show, you guys know I am a huge Dan Patrick fan. Now, Dan Patrick has the Danettes, which are his guys on the show that help him run the show. The Leisureman is with Paul Pabst, Dan Patrick's producer, and Andrew Pearl, who is one of his bloggers and a contributor on the show. And it's just two guys talking about, things that are acceptable, that they like, that are leisurely acceptable. They talk about sports and a lot of things like that. It's super cool. It's a super chill and laid-back show. If you haven't checked it out, definitely listen to it. Another podcast I'm really enjoying, it's called The Real Good Show. Super funny. I'm a huge hockey fan. These guys are from Vancouver, and they're some of the funniest guys out there. So, as you know, I'm a huge fan of Twitter comedy. Stephen Heck, at Boring as Heck on Twitter. It's his podcast with his buddies, Justin and John Cullen. Justin's not Cullen, but I can't remember Justin's last name. But one of the guys' name is Justin, one of the guys' name is John, and then there's Stephen. And they pretty much talk about hockey and all crazy shit that's going on right now. And they're super hilarious guys. And they actually have a segment on their show kind of similar to this. That's where I got the segment idea. So shout out to them. Those guys are awesome. If you haven't checked out their podcast, check it out now. So the Leisureman podcast and the Real Good Show podcast on iTunes. Those guys are awesome. So yeah, that's what's good with me right now. That segment's cool. We're going to keep that one. I really like that segment. Moving on, though, we're going to end the show with our bold prediction like we typically do. Alex, let's hear your bold prediction for this upcoming week of sports.
Bold prediction. Well, mine's not going to take all week. Tomorrow, the Columbus Crew will beat Real Salt Lake, and the Reds will finally break their – oh, that's not even a skid. They're already at rock bottom, but they're going to win tomorrow, too. Reds and Crew win.
Very bold. I take the bet on the Crew. I think they will win that. I will not take the bet on the Reds right now. Ian, bold prediction.
My bold prediction is that Golden State will win Game 6 of the Western Conference Championship, pushing it to a Game 7 in Golden State, in which Oklahoma City will go out there and upset the 73-9 Warriors on their home floor in the Oracle, and all the Golden State Warrior fans will disappear, put their Kobe jerseys back on, and all will be restored in the NBA.
Love it. My bold prediction is this weekend I will definitely gross out my fiance by eating an alarming amount of grilled meats at the various cookouts that I attend. It's going to be a great time. I'm very much looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good weekend. Hopefully win some money at the Belmont and or whenever the Belmont runs. Not this weekend, sorry. Hope I can win some money at sports. And, yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. So that's my bold prediction. That's the end of our show. Episode 10 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show podcast. I want to thank Ian and Alex for joining me this week. It's been awesome. You guys are great. Check out our podcast on iTunes if you haven't already. So make sure you subscribe. And when you're there, leave us a review. 5-star review. That would really help us out. It helps the algorithms. And if you're an Android user, check us out on Google Play Music and also Stitcher. We are on there as well, so you can subscribe to those on there. And if you have friends or family, tell them to subscribe. Anything helps us right now. We really appreciate it. And the podcast is doing very well. We do appreciate everyone who's helped us out already. So thank you. Follow us on Facebook. Or like our page on Facebook, Ohio Sports Radio there, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Ohio Sports Radio. If you are a writer, if you're looking to cover any of your favorite Ohio sports, send us an email with some of your stuff and let us check it out. We just got a new guy that actually sent us some stuff. We actually got to check it out. So, Guy, if you're out there, I don't want to say your name. If you're out there, we will check it out. I've just been really busy. But send it to ohiosportsradio@gmail.com. Check out our website, ohsportsradio.com. Got all kinds of awesome stuff on there. Ian's been doing his Becoming a Brown segment, which is awesome each day. It's been really good, E. So good job on that. But continue to check out our stuff, man. We really appreciate it. Like I said, subscribe. Leave us a review on iTunes for our podcast. It really help us out. Thank you to all of our writers. Thank you to all of our fans, everyone who interacts with us. Thank you to everyone who's sending questions. And a very, very, very heartfelt special thank you to all of the veterans who have fought for our country and all those who have fallen for our country and to give us the freedom to do anything we want. You guys are the best. Alex, thank you, brother, for your service. And thank you to everyone. Hopefully everybody has a great Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully you enjoy this podcast. Check it out. Enjoy your great weekend, and we will see you on the other side for episode 11 of the Ohio Sports Radio Show.